Hey everyone, welcome to this practice. So in this practice, we're going to actually create our own quiz game, but more importantly, in this one, we're actually going to create our own classes and everything there is to know about it. And you're going to find out how powerful the object-oriented programming is and really what we can do with it. So again, we're going to create a very simple quiz, true and false quiz. And I want to explain exactly how we're going to do this, and we're going to start building it model step by step. All right, let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to do in our, quiz program is that we want to create a question object. Now, the idea with this question object is that it needs to have attributes. And if you remember what was an attribute was basically a property that a class basically has, right? For example, again, if you go back to that car example, the car has tires, it has seats. So in this case, the attributes for this question class, which we're going to create the objects from, is going to have a text, which is like the text for the question, basically the question itself. And also it's going to have an answer, right? So that's basically how it's going to work. So a text, a question, and an answer, all right? And I just said a text, but again, it could be a question and answer. Same thing, really. So how we're going to actually create that. So I just want to explain a little bit more here. So the idea with this is that we want to create an attribute that we can actually initialize. And when we do actually initialize it, we're going to give it the value. For example, in this case, if you take a look, this is a new object, right, that we created from this class. And again, this is the question class itself. And what we want to do is we want to input some values. For example, this is 2 plus 3 equals 5. This is the question, right? It would be the text. So this is what we want. And then we also want to have an answer, right? So in this case, the answer is true, obviously, because 2 plus 3 equals 5 is correct, right? So that is our answer. So we got a question and we got an answer here. And again, we want to input this from the beginning when we initialize it, so we can actually refer back to it later and check and see if it's true or not. All right. And again, this is how it works. And then, when we actually have these attributes, when we actually, input these attributes within this class, the attributes are going to be added inside the object, and then we can actually use it later on. All right. So I hope that made sense. And let's actually go ahead and build it. Now, in the resources section, you're going to be able to download a file, which is going to give you access to everything we need. And, let's actually go ahead and open it with PyCharm. So I'm going to open PyCharm. I'm going to create a new project. And actually, let's go ahead and open a new project. All right. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to just go to my desktop, and there you go. So this is this quick quiz game start. So I'm just going to open that real quick, and we're going to trust this project. And there you go. Just like that, we have our, project open. So if you take a look at the files here, we got a few files. We got the main.py. All right, we got the question model, we got the quiz brain, and also we got the data. So if you look at the data is essentially all the questions that I've already put in for you. All right, so this is basically the questions that you're gonna have here. Again, it's just like I wanted to make your life easier, and later on we're gonna talk about how you can actually get more questions. But more importantly, in future sections, we're gonna actually go ahead and talk about APIs and how you can actually import unlimited questions. That's something we'll talk about later on, but it is just done for you here because I don't want you to go ahead and write your own questions and answers. But anyways, so we're gonna start with the question model. So this is basically our question model, the class, essentially where we initialize the question. All right, again, if you remember, as I talked about this, the question, okay, it needs to have attributes, okay, and the attributes are going to be text and answer. All right, so that's very, very, very important. All right, I'm sorry for my spelling mistakes. So again, that's what we're gonna have, and then also we're gonna have the question class, okay, There you go. So we're gonna have the question class, and this one is going to be, you know, a question like class, right? So we're just gonna call it like question, for example. So something like this. So again, we're gonna do the quiz model first. So just like, you know, if you want to follow up and then like do it with me, we're gonna do the quiz model. So anyways, so with that being said, let's go ahead and actually build it, because again, the idea is that when we initialize this, for example, I'm just gonna say new question. There you go. So new question. So when we initialize it, what we want to is that we want to have the obviously call the question, and then we're going to give it like maybe a text, and then we're going to give it an answer, right? So that's basically how we're going to initialize this. So let's go ahead and build this. So I'm going to start by actually writing our class. So I'm just going to call class, and I'm going to call it question. All right. So now we're going to define. All right, so we're going to define a new attribute, and we're going to use the init method, the constructor, right? And I see we're already going to get the self here. Very simple, right? And we're going to say self text, and this is going to be our first attribute, and we're going to have another one. We call it self answer. All right, so that's our second attribute. Now, if you actually save this right now, one of the problems obviously is that we don't have any values. We're not receiving any values, and these are unused. As you see, we got the yellow squiggly lines. That means that it's unused. So let's go ahead and actually add those values. All right, so the way we're going to do this is that we're going to actually add new values, like the input values. So I'm just going to say question text. That would be the text of the question, like again, the question itself. And then we're going to have question answer. All right, so that's going to be our answer basically. And now we're actually going to add it here. So I'm just going to add a question text, and we're going to add question answer. There you go. So just like that, we actually created our question class. Very simple. Again, nothing complicated. And if you actually test it out, here's what you're going to see. All right, so if I actually call new question, for example, and if we actually call the question, you know, class, there you go. And if you actually, let's say we call it, again, 2 + 2 = 4. All right, so that's our text. And we're going to also say an answer is true. All right, so just like that, you know, let's put this down here. So anyways, so as you see, we just using this line, we initialized this, you know, class, right? So now let's go ahead and actually print this. Let's actually print this to prove that this actually works. So I'm going to say print new question, and we're going to print the text. So if I do this, take a look at this. So we got our question text. And if I print the answer, take a look. We are going to get our answer as well. So just like that, we actually created this. Obviously, we don't need this part or this part really. So yeah, so this is the first step. We created our question class, which is going to help us to, you know, initialize values, get the question and answer, and use it in other parts of the program. So make sure you do that. I hope this made sense, and you can also download this PDF in the resource section as well to take a look at it. Again, the idea here is that we have an attribute that we're going to, you know, that is going to have default text and answer, and then we're going to add these values and input, and it's going to store these values, and we can actually use it when we create an object. That's very, very simple. That's the whole idea behind this. Anyways, guys, let me know if you have any questions about this. If not, I'll see you in the next video where we continue building this.